Imagine drifting into sleep while holding a single thread of life's greatest secret, a thread so tiny it cannot be seen with the eye, yet powerful enough to carry the entire story of who you are. This is DNA, the quiet code, the silent library, the soft spiral tucked inside every one of your cells. As you relax tonight, let's travel gently into its mysteries. We won't rush. We'll unfold its wonders like pages in an ancient book, slowly, tenderly, as if each fact is a lullaby for the mind. Close your eyes and let the story of DNA carry you into rest. The quiet code hidden inside every cell. Every living being carries an invisible code, a language that does not need sound to speak. Inside your body, right now in every tiny cell, strands of DNA are curled like careful notes written on a ribbon. It's so small that a pinhead of blood could hold meters of it. And yet it quietly guides your heartbeat, your breath, your growth. The wonder is not that this code exists, but that it stays hidden, faithfully repeating itself in silence, even as you sleep tonight. When you imagine DNA, don't think of computers or machines. Think of an old storyteller whispering in candlelight, repeating the same tale across centuries. Every time a cell divides, the story is copied again, carefully, lovingly, without losing its rhythm. If a single letter of this tale changes, it may alter how a body works. Sometimes it makes no difference at all. Sometimes it writes something new. But mostly it just continues quietly, doing its ancient work. This code doesn't rest, even while you dream. It is always awake like the roots of a tree that dig in silence, unseen. It doesn't demand attention, it doesn't ask for applause. It simply writes life, one silent line after another. And if you could stretch the DNA inside a single human body, it would reach to the sun and back many times over. That scale feels impossible to imagine, yet it's all curled into cells so small you cannot see them without a microscope. It's like fitting an entire library into a grain of sand. When scientists first realized this, they described it as life's greatest miracle hidden in plain sight. Imagine carrying entire encyclopedias of instruction within you, and never even noticing them as you live, laugh, and love. DNA is not loud, yet it is the most important story you will ever carry. You may never feel it moving inside you, but it shapes your face, your voice, your thoughts, and even how you sleep tonight. And as you drift deeper, think of this gentle code quietly glowing in the background, like a soft nightlight that has always been there, keeping watch. How DNA became known as life's instruction book. Long before we could even see it, humans wondered what makes a child resemble a parent. Why blue eyes follow blue eyes, why height passes from father to son. For centuries, the mystery stayed unsolved. Then in the middle of the 20th century, a picture was taken, not a photograph of a face, but of a pattern. The now famous X-ray diffraction image showed a spiral, and that spiral revealed DNA's true form. It was as if the universe whispered, "Here is the book of life." Scientists called it an instruction book, though it feels even more delicate than that. Imagine a recipe so detailed that it doesn't just describe a cake, but actually makes the cake rise. DNA holds instructions not only for the color of your hair, but for the way your cells know how to heal after a cut. Every instruction is tiny, like a note in a symphony, yet together they create an orchestra that plays without stopping. When the structure was first understood, it felt like a doorway opening. Suddenly mysteries of inheritance, disease, and even ancestry began to make sense. It was as though someone had finally found the index of a book humanity had been reading without understanding the chapters. That moment changed science forever, and it continues to guide medicine, biology, and even how we see ourselves. Think of your DNA as a manual, but not the kind you keep in a drawer and forget. This one is read every second by trillions of cells. They don't argue with it. They don't doubt it. They simply follow it. Without this book, life wouldn't know how to take its very first breath. And yet the book is not fixed. It can be marked, rewritten, sometimes misread. That fragile balance makes every life unique. Even now we don't know all its pages. Researchers still discover footnotes hidden in the margins, instructions we didn't realize were there. Some seem silent, unused. Others become vital when the body is under stress. So the Book of Life isn't a closed volume. It is more like a living manuscript, rewriting itself with every generation. The delicate double helix that spirals like a staircase. When people picture DNA, they often see a twisted ladder, rising and curling like a spiral staircase in an old castle. That image, the double helix, is not just beautiful, it is exact. Two strands wrap around each other, held together by tiny bonds. It is both strong and delicate, like silk ropes that never untangle. This spiral shape is what makes DNA stable, allowing it to store so much knowledge without falling apart. The double helix is more than just structure, it is protection. If one strand is damaged, the other can repair it. Like two friends walking side by side, they carry each other. This partnership is what makes DNA so enduring. For billions of years it has spiraled quietly, unchanged in its basic design, from the first single-celled organisms to you lying here tonight. If you were to zoom in, you'd see that each rung of the staircase is made of paired bases, like puzzle pieces fitting perfectly. Adenine meets thymine. Cytosine meets guanine. Always the same partners, never mismatched. This simple rule ensures the story is copied faithfully, over and over. Without this strict pairing, the music of life would fall into chaos. The elegance of the double helix is not just scientific, it is poetic. Many have compared it to threads of fate weaving destiny. Others see it as a symbol of infinity, a spiral that never ends. Even in art, jewelry, and architecture, the double helix inspires designs. It is a reminder that beauty in nature often hides deep function. The spiral shape also means DNA is compact. Like a long ribbon wound tightly into a spool, it takes almost no space. Yet within that tiny coil lies the plan for entire bodies, forests, oceans of creatures. The staircase may be invisible, but its steps are what carry every living being forward. The way 4 simple letters write the story of existence. At the heart of DNA's code lies a gentle simplicity. Just 4 letters, A, T, C, and G, that's it. 4 chemical bases forming the entire alphabet of life. They repeat in endless patterns like beads on a string, yet from those simple combinations rise elephants, roses, whales, and human beings. The fact that so much diversity comes from so few letters is one of life's most calming paradoxes. Imagine a language with only 4 words, yet from it you could write all poetry, all stories, all songs. DNA does exactly that. Each 3-letter word forms instructions for an amino acid, which in turn builds proteins, which in turn shape every cell and organ. From 4 letters to full bodies, the leap is astonishing, and yet it happens every moment without us noticing. The order of the letters matters. A tiny change, 1 letter swapped, can mean the difference between health and illness. But in most cases, the letters align perfectly, flowing in sequences that ensure the body grows as it should. This quiet precision has been kept for billions of years across countless species, as though nature itself never tires of writing. What's even more humbling is that these letters are universal. A plant, a bird, a human, all read the same alphabet. That means, at the deepest level, we are not divided but connected by a shared script. Your DNA can be read by a jellyfish, and it would understand the instructions. This universal language ties together the entire web of life on Earth. To think that something so small can create something so vast, that four basses dancing in endless order could write not just existence but individuality, is a thought that soothes the mind as it drifts into dreams. It shows how simplicity, repeated with care, can birth infinite possibility. Why DNA is so tiny, yet holds entire universes of information. It almost feels impossible. Something smaller than the width of a hair carrying libraries beyond imagination. DNA does this with elegance. Each strand is just nanometers wide, yet in its spirals are billions of letters. If you could print it all out, one person's DNA would fill thousands of books, more than any single library could hold, and still it fits inside the invisible heart of a single cell. The reason lies in how DNA folds. It coils around proteins like thread, around spools, then coils again and again, until it is so condensed it vanishes from sight. Yet the instructions remain accessible, ready to be unfolded whenever the cell needs them. It is like storing the entire map of the world in a folded paper and still being able to read every city when needed. This compactness is what allows DNA to exist in every cell of your body. Your skin, your eyes, your blood, all hold a complete copy of you. Imagine carrying an identical set of blueprints in every room of a house. That way, no matter where you are, the instructions are always nearby. DNA is careful redundancy at its finest, and still, the scale astonishes scientists. If you stretched out the DNA from one cell, it would measure about 2 meters long. From all your cells, it would reach far beyond the moon. The fact that so much can be folded into so little space feels almost magical. It's a reminder of how nature solves puzzles that even human engineering struggles with. When you think of this, you might feel small, but also infinite. To know that within each of your cells is a universe of code, folded and stored with such grace, makes you realize that you carry entire galaxies of possibility within you. How every living being shares this ancient language. When you look at the world, at trees, birds, fish, and people, it may seem like every creature speaks a different tongue, but deep inside there is only one language, DNA. The same alphabet that tells your heart to beat is also found in a blade of grass, in a dolphin, in the silent wings of a moth. That universality is breathtaking. It reminds us that the thread connecting life is not an abstract idea, but a real, physical code. This shared code tells us something humbling. Life is not a set of separate kingdoms, but one great family. The differences we see, the colors, the shapes, the songs, are variations of the same text. It is like looking at 1,000 poems written in the same language, each one unique, yet all bound by shared grammar. And when you realize this, even a small ant or a patch of moss feels less like other and more like kin. Scientists sometimes compare DNA to music. Just 4 notes, played in endless sequences, create every melody. Your body and mine are symphonies born from the same 4 notes as the oak tree or the sparrow outside your window. This unity makes the world feel smaller and more sacred, as if we are all pages from the same book scattered across the earth. If you've ever wondered why studying fruit flies or tiny worms can teach us about humans, the answer lies here. Their DNA speaks the same language, though with different phrases. That's why medical research often uses simple organisms. They reveal truths about us because the code is shared. Even the simplest bacteria carry echoes of our own script. So tonight, as you drift, think of DNA not as belonging to you alone, but as a universal song that plays everywhere life exists. A single language, countless stories, one great living library scattered across oceans, forests, and skies. And each time you breathe, you join that quiet conversation of life that has been spoken for billions of years. the astonishing similarity between humans and bananas. It sounds almost like a bedtime joke, but it's true. Humans and bananas share about 60% of the same DNA. At first, that might feel absurd. We walk and talk, bananas sit silently in bowls, and yet the same molecular instructions guide the way their cells and ours function. The same code that tells a banana how to grow is part of the code that tells your body how to live. Life's humor lies in these unexpected overlaps. The reason is simple but profound. Basic processes like copying DNA, making proteins, and producing energy are universal. A banana needs to do them just as much as you do. Evolution didn't reinvent the wheel each time. Instead, it used the same old tools, slightly adjusted for new forms. That's why our DNA, though it grows into such different beings, still carries those ancient resemblances. Think about what this means. When you peel a banana tomorrow morning, you are holding something not completely foreign but distantly familiar. Its life, though silent, follows similar rules to yours. Its cells divide, its genes switch on and off, its proteins fold, just like in your body. It is less alien than you might imagine. This similarity also reminds us that DNA is conservative. It doesn't waste what already works. When a process is successful, nature holds on to it for millions of years. The same ancient instructions ripple through trees, fruits, and animals, binding the earth into one shared system. Each time you eat, you are joining a chain that is already woven into your body's code. And maybe, in a quiet way, this makes the world gentler. To know that you are not completely separate, but carry kinship even with something as humble as a fruit, softens the boundary between you and everything else. It shows that the miracle of DNA is not only in its complexity, but also in its simplicity. The close kinship we share with chimpanzees. If a banana feels like a surprising cousin, a chimpanzee feels almost like a sibling. Humans and chimps share around 98–99% of their DNA. That number is astonishing. It means that the difference between Shakespeare writing plays and a chimpanzee cracking nuts is written in less than 2% of our code. Such a small difference, and yet it creates entirely different worlds of thought and culture. When you watch a chimpanzee grooming its young or solving puzzles, you can almost see the reflection of yourself. Our DNA mirrors theirs so closely that even their diseases, immune systems, and emotions overlap with ours. They laugh, mourn, and form friendships, all guided by instructions not so different from our own. That tiny margin of difference shapes what we call human. The reason our DNA is so close is because of shared ancestry. Millions of years ago, humans and chimps branched off from a common ancestor. The code then began to diverge, slowly writing two stories from the same book. Some lines stayed the same, others shifted slightly, and those shifts gave rise to speech, culture, and eventually cities and science. But beneath it, the kinship remains. This closeness is why studying chimps teaches us about ourselves. From brain development to social behavior, they offer a mirror into our own biology. The DNA connection explains why their gestures feel familiar, why their eyes hold a spark we recognize. It is not imagination, it is genetics whispering the truth of shared roots. And perhaps knowing this, we feel a deeper responsibility toward them. For if our DNA is so entwined, then their survival and well-being matter not just for them, but for the story of us. In their spiraled code, part of our own past still breathes, waiting to be remembered. The invisible thread linking all life together. When you weave together bananas, chimpanzees, humans, whales, birds, even tiny microbes, you start to see something larger. DNA is not a scattered set of codes. It is a single thread running through every life form, looping endlessly. That thread is invisible, but it connects the ant under your foot to the starfish in the sea and the eagle soaring overhead. Life feels diverse, but at its foundation, it is one tapestry woven from the same fiber. This invisible thread gives rise to something profound: unity in diversity. Just as many colors can come from three primary shades, countless life forms emerge from one code. The shapes and sounds differ, but the bond beneath them remains unbroken. In this way, DNA is less like a blueprint and more like a loom, endlessly weaving variations of the same cloth. Scientists call this the tree of life. Each branch is different, yet the trunk is shared. That trunk is DNA. Every species, no matter how strange or distant, carries a piece of the same original code. When we trace it back, we find a common ancestor, a root system feeding everything that breathes and grows. It is humbling to realize that separation is only an illusion. This interconnectedness has practical power too. Medicines made from plants work in humans because the chemistry overlaps. Bacteria teach us about genetics because their code echoes ours. Even the food chain only exists because the instructions of one life can nourish the instructions of another. It is all one great circle held together by a single thread. And if you sit quietly and imagine this, you may feel less alone. To know that in the deepest sense you are part of every bird song, every rustling leaf, every creature that ever lived, can bring comfort. The invisible thread of DNA ties you not just to your family, but to the universe of life itself. How DNA folds neatly inside the nucleus. All of this complexity, the kinship with plants and animals, the invisible thread, fits inside the tiniest of spaces. In each of your trillions of cells, DNA folds neatly within the nucleus, the small command center at the cell's heart. It is as though entire libraries, maps, and symphonies are folded into a single glowing dot. That folding is one of the greatest marvels of biology. To understand it, picture a ribbon kilometers long being packed into a pinhead without tangling. DNA achieves this by wrapping around proteins called histones, coiling tighter and tighter until it fits perfectly. Yet even while packed away, it remains organized with specific regions ready to open when needed. It is like having books on a shelf that can spring open instantly when called upon. This neat folding is not random. It's carefully arranged so that genes involved in similar functions are often stored close together. That way, when the cell needs instructions for healing or growing, it doesn't have to search far. It is a system built for efficiency, elegance, and speed. Life does not waste time flipping through pages. It knows exactly where to look. Sometimes the folding can shift, exposing new sections of DNA that were once hidden. This is part of what makes life adaptable. The same code, folded differently, can respond to new challenges. It's a reminder that DNA is not static. It bends, moves, and reshapes as life requires. Even its stillness is alive with quiet flexibility. So tonight, picture that folding inside you, countless ribbons of knowledge resting calmly within every nucleus. Each coil is a silent archive, waiting patiently until the cell calls upon it. The gentle guardians called chromosomes. Inside each nucleus, DNA doesn't just float loosely. It is carefully wrapped into structures called chromosomes. Think of them as protective cases, guardians that keep the spirals safe, ordered, and ready to be used. Humans carry 46 chromosomes, neatly arranged in pairs. Each one holds thousands of genes, tiny lines of instructions that work together like chapters in a book. Without this packaging, the delicate DNA would tangle, break, or lose its rhythm. Chromosomes are especially important when cells divide. During that moment, DNA must be copied perfectly. The chromosomes ensure that every new cell receives the correct set of instructions. They line up with precision, split evenly, and deliver the code like careful librarians handing out identical books. A small mistake in this process can cause illness, but most of the time it happens flawlessly. Millions of times in your body every day. You can almost imagine chromosomes as spools of golden thread, each one carrying secrets from your ancestors, half come from your mother, half from your father, weaving together the fabric of your identity. And yet, though they are invisible to the eye, their influence shapes everything you see in the mirror. They are silent guardians, but their presence is everywhere in you. Scientists often study the way chromosomes arrange themselves because their position can influence which genes are active. They are not just passive cases, they are active managers, deciding what part of the DNA is read at what time. Their folding and unfolding is a language of its own, a hidden choreography of life happening every moment you breathe. When you imagine chromosomes, see them not as cold science but as gentle protectors. They are like caretakers in a library of life, watching over precious scrolls so that they remain whole and unbroken. And as we continue deeper into DNA's story, these guardians will show how genes begin to whisper their instructions into the silence of the cell. The mysterious role of genes as tiny switches. Within the long spirals of DNA are sections we call genes. Each gene is a stretch of code that carries instructions for a specific task, like the recipe for making a protein. But what's fascinating is that genes are not always on. They act like tiny switches, sometimes silent, sometimes active, depending on what the body needs. It is this on and off rhythm that keeps life adaptable and responsive. Think of a house where every light can be turned on or off. Not all lights need to glow at once. In the same way, genes are controlled carefully. A gene for eye color may be silent after birth, but a gene for repairing tissue may switch on during injury. This precise timing is what makes DNA more than just a static code. It's a living, responsive system. Scientists still don't fully understand all the triggers. Some switches respond to environment, like sunlight or diet. Others are influenced by hormones or stress. This mystery makes genetics one of the most fascinating frontiers of science. How does the body know which switches to flip and when? The answers are still unfolding, hidden within the spiral's secrets. The beauty of genes is their variety. Some are long, carrying complex instructions. Others are short, simple, yet crucial. Together they form a mosaic of tasks that build everything from muscles to memories. Without their switching rhythm, life would be rigid, unable to adapt or heal. It is their flexibility that makes survival possible across generations. So as you lie in the quiet tonight, imagine millions of these tiny switches softly flicking on and off inside you. A silent symphony of lights guiding your body through the night, adjusting, repairing, balancing. It is a choreography you never see, yet it shapes every part of your being. How your eyes, hair, and height are written in code. One of the most comforting truths about DNA is that it holds the blueprint of your visible self. The color of your eyes, the curl of your hair, even your height, all are written in sequences of genes. These instructions don't feel abstract when you see them mirrored in family members. Your father's smile, your grandmother's height, your mother's hair, all are echoes of codes passed down through time. Yet it is never as simple as one gene equals one trait. Most traits are the work of many genes working together, blending like brushstrokes on a canvas. Eye color, for example, is shaped by several genes influencing how pigments are made and distributed. That's why shades vary from deep brown to ice blue, with countless hues in between. The diversity comes from the way multiple codes overlap. Hair is another story of complexity. Genes decide not only color but texture, straight, wavy, curly. They influence how hair changes over time, graying with age or thinning with stress. Even something as simple as freckles comes from specific genes guiding pigment production. It is as though your body paints itself from instructions stored deep in the nucleus. Height, too, is a story written in DNA but also edited by environment. While genes set the range, nutrition and health influence how tall someone grows. That blend of written code and lived experience is what makes each person's body unique. DNA provides the blueprint, but life adds its finishing touches with quiet unpredictability. When you think of yourself in the mirror, remember that behind every visible detail lies a story encoded in spirals. And when you see your reflection in others, siblings, children, parents, you are seeing DNA's words echoing across generations, spoken through the body. The influence of silent genes that quietly wait. Not every gene is always in use. In fact, a large part of your DNA sits silently, waiting. Some scientists call it junk DNA, but the name is misleading. Silence does not mean uselessness. Many of these genes may serve purposes we don't fully understand or act as backups for when conditions change. They are like unopened chapters in a book, waiting for the right moment. Some silent genes can awaken in surprising ways. Stress, illness, or changes in the environment can flip switches that were long dormant. In some cases, these awakenings help survival, offering new tools for the body. In others, they may trigger challenges like genetic disorders. The silence, therefore, is both mystery and possibility. It hides both gifts and risks within its quiet. Think of these silent sections as a library archive. Not every book is read daily. Some are reserved for rare times when unusual knowledge is needed. DNA carries centuries of adaptation, some of it hidden, some of it active. When life changes suddenly, it sometimes reaches into the silent shelves for solutions. This silence also explains why siblings can look so different. The same family DNA may carry silent variations that show up differently in each child. What stays silent in one generation may speak in the next. It is like a family recipe where one ingredient is sometimes left out, only to reappear years later in a new dish. So when you consider silent DNA, don't see it as empty. Instead, see it as a quiet chorus waiting patiently in the background. It may never be called upon, or it may suddenly shape the path of life. Its mystery is part of what makes DNA an endless story of hidden possibilities, the story of mutations that create variety. Sometimes the DNA code changes. A letter may flip, repeat, or vanish. These are mutations, and though the word often sounds alarming, they are also the source of variety. Without mutations, life would be a static script, unchanging across time. It is these small errors, these gentle slips of nature's pen, that give rise to new colors, new forms, and sometimes new strengths. Many mutations are harmless, passing unnoticed. Others bring visible differences, like a new shade of eye color or a trait that didn't exist before. A few may cause challenges leading to illness, yet across the grand sweep of time, mutations are what fuel evolution. They are the sparks that allow species to adapt, survive, and flourish in changing worlds. You can picture mutations like tiny edits in an old manuscript. Most don't alter the story, some improve it. A few make it harder to read, but without edits, the manuscript would never grow or adjust. Nature takes the risk of change because it is through change that life continues. Even in your own DNA, countless mutations have happened across generations. Some made no difference, others gave rise to the traits you carry now. Without them, humanity would still look like its distant ancestors. Change carries both danger and beauty, but it is what allows life to remain alive instead of frozen in time. So when you hear the word mutation, don't only think of fear. Think of butterflies with new wing patterns, plants that survive in harsher soils, humans who evolve to new climates. Mutations are life's experiments, small notes written in the margin of the grand story, shaping the chapters yet to come. The role of evolution written in small changes. Evolution is not a sudden leap, but a quiet accumulation of tiny edits in DNA. Over thousands, even millions of years, these small changes shape the face of life itself. a finch's beak, a whale's fins, the human brain. All are the results of DNA shifting gently, bit by bit, across generations. You could say evolution is DNA writing new chapters in an ancient book, one letter at a time. What makes evolution powerful is its patience. It doesn't rush. It tests new combinations silently, keeping the ones that help, discarding those that don't. Mutations that once seemed small become defining traits of a species. A thicker coat of fur, sharper eyesight, or the ability to digest new foods, each is a genetic experiment that worked. Over ages, these experiments carve entire landscapes of biodiversity. If you look at fossils, you see evolution's story frozen in stone, bones of ancient horses with toes, fish with primitive legs, early humans with different skulls, all evidence of DNA's edits. It is not perfection that evolution seeks, but adaptability. The spiral's greatest gift is not to stay the same, but to bend with time's demands. Evolution also explains why similarities exist across species. Shared DNA is a sign of shared ancestors. That's why humans and chimpanzees are so close, or why whales and hippos share traits. DNA is like a long river that splits into streams carrying fragments of the original water. Every species is a branch of that flowing story, written across ages. So when you think of evolution, picture DNA patiently adjusting its song over billions of years. Each small change is a quiet note, and together they form the great symphony of life that surrounds you today. It is not randomness, it is persistence, sculpting existence with the finest of brushes. Why some traits skip generations? Have you ever noticed how a grandchild may resemble a grandparent more than a parent? A nose, a dimple, a certain smile appearing after lying quiet for a generation. This happens because DNA carries recessive traits, genes that remain silent when paired with stronger ones, but reappear when the conditions align. It's as if they wait patiently, hiding in the spiral until the right moment to be seen again. These hidden traits are fascinating because they reveal how much of you is carried invisibly. You may never show a particular feature, but you can pass it along. Your child may not have it, but your grandchild might. It's like a melody skipping a beat before playing again in full. DNA doesn't forget, it simply holds possibilities in reserve. Classic examples include eye color or hair type. Brown eyes may hide blue, curly hair may hide straight. The dominant traits mask the recessive ones, but the code remains. This is why family trees are filled with surprises, sudden echoes of ancestors long past. Each generation is like a lottery of combinations, reshuffling the same ancient deck of cards. Even beyond appearance, some hidden traits influence health, abilities, or even resistance to illness. Carriers may not show symptoms, but their DNA quietly carries the instructions. Only when paired with another carrier does the trait emerge. This is why genetic counseling exists, to trace silent threads that may suddenly become visible. So when you notice a skipped trait in your family, smile at the quiet persistence of DNA. It holds stories longer than lifetimes, waiting to reveal them when the moment feels right. In that sense, you carry not only your own story, but fragments of ancestors whispering through time. The way twins carry mirrored blueprints. Twins have always fascinated humanity. Identical twins in particular are living examples of DNA's magic. They come from a single fertilized egg that splits, creating two lives with nearly identical blueprints. Their DNA sequences match so closely that they are often called nature's clones. Yet, as anyone who knows twins will tell you, they are not truly the same. Even with identical DNA, life's experiences write their own edits. Environment, nutrition, stress, and chance all shape how genes are expressed. One twin may be taller, the other may develop a different health condition. Their fingerprints, though similar, are never exactly identical. DNA provides the script, but life improvises its own performance. Fraternal twins, on the other hand, are no more alike than regular siblings. They come from two separate eggs, each fertilized by its own sperm. Their DNA overlaps like any brothers or sisters. What makes them twins is timing, not code. It is a reminder that DNA tells part of the story, but circumstances shape the rest. Studying twins has taught scientists much about nature versus nurture. If one twin develops a condition while the other does not, it often points to environmental influences rather than genetic ones. If both share it, the DNA is likely the stronger factor. In this way, twins become living laboratories, helping us understand the interplay of genes and life. And perhaps beyond science, twins remind us of DNA's generosity. From one blueprint, two full lives emerge, two different journeys, two different souls, carried by the same starting spiral. It shows how flexible, how abundant the code of life truly is. The fascinating case of identical yet unique lives. Even when DNA is shared, like in identical twins, each life still develops its own individuality. This paradox shows that DNA is not destiny, but possibility. Two people with the same blueprint can still become entirely different individuals, shaped by experience, choices, and environment. DNA sets the stage, but life writes the play. Consider how identical twins raised in the same home can grow into distinct personalities. One may prefer art, the other science. One may fall ill while the other stays healthy. Their DNA cannot explain every difference because genes are only part of the story. The way they are expressed, turned on, turned off, varies over time, influenced by countless small factors. This individuality also comes from epigenetics, the science of how environment influences gene activity. Stress, diet, exercise, even thoughts can leave marks on how DNA is used. These marks don't change the code itself, but they decide which parts are read more often. Identical DNA, therefore, can lead to very different outcomes when life adds its edits. The uniqueness of lives also appears in how randomness plays a role. Cells divide imperfectly, proteins fold slightly differently, and chance events ripple outward. No matter how precise DNA is, the world around it ensures that sameness never fully lasts. Life insists on variation, even when starting points are the same. So the story of identical yet unique lives is a reminder that DNA is powerful, but not absolute. It holds possibilities, not certainties. And that's what makes every person, twin or not, an unrepeatable miracle, a one-time unfolding of code and experience that can never happen again. The resilience of DNA against time. For something so delicate, DNA is astonishingly resilient. It has survived billions of years, carried through countless generations without disappearing. Even when exposed to harsh conditions, fragments of DNA can persist for thousands of years, buried in ice, bones, or amber. This resilience is why we can still read the genetic code of mammoths, Neanderthals, and ancient plants long extinct. DNA has repair mechanisms built in. When damage occurs, through sunlight, chemicals, or mistakes in copying, special proteins step in to fix it. These repair systems are constantly at work inside you, correcting errors before they cause harm. Without them, life would not be sustainable. The spiral is not fragile, it is an enduring thread that defends itself. What makes this endurance even more remarkable is that DNA is both stable and flexible. It holds on to its essential structure, but allows room for change through mutations. It is like an old manuscript that preserves the main story, but still leaves space in the margins for new notes. That balance keeps life both steady and adaptable, surviving all kinds of challenges. Even in the face of time, DNA whispers. Scientists have recovered code from mummies, thousands of years old, from frozen wolves buried in Siberian ice, even from seeds that sprouted after centuries of sleep. The spiral does not easily fade. It lingers, holding its secrets until we are ready to listen. So as you rest tonight, remember that your DNA is not fragile. It is ancient and enduring. It carries the wisdom of survival, not just for you, but for every ancestor before you. Ancient DNA preserved in frozen mammoths. Deep in Siberian ice, mammoths have slept for tens of thousands of years. Their fur, tusks, even soft tissues remained locked away in frozen time, and within them, DNA still lingers, fragile yet astonishingly intact. Scientists have managed to sequence this ancient code, piecing together the story of creatures that vanished long before civilization. It is like opening a time capsule, not of artifacts, but of life itself. This preservation is possible because ice slows decay. Where heat destroys DNA, cold protects it. The mammoths' spirals of code remained curled in their cells, quiet but not erased. Reading them today is like listening to whispers carried across millennia. We don't just learn what mammoths looked like, we uncover their kinship with elephants, their adaptations to cold, even details about their diets. The idea that life's code can survive beyond death is humbling. It reminds us that DNA is not bound only to the present. It stretches backward, holding memories older than memory itself. When a scientist examines mammoth DNA, they are holding the handwriting of time, a signature left by creatures long gone but never fully silenced. And perhaps most striking is what this means for the future. If DNA can last so long, then each generation leaves behind traces for the next. We, too, are writing in the frozen archives of Earth, leaving spirals that may be read thousands of years from now. In that sense, DNA is not just survival, it is immortality written in molecules. So the mammoths, though extinct, still live in their code. They remind us that even death cannot erase the story completely. Life always leaves a trace, a spiral waiting to be rediscovered. Fossils whispering genetic secrets across millennia. Fossils are often seen as silent stones, impressions of bones or shells, but in some rare cases they still carry fragments of DNA hidden deep inside. Though fragile, these molecules can sometimes survive long enough to be read. This is how scientists unlock secrets from animals and plants that lived millions of years ago, bridging the gap between geology and genetics. Fossils are not just shapes, they are whispers of code waiting to be heard. The challenge lies in how fragile DNA is. Sunlight, water, and oxygen break it down quickly. Only under perfect conditions, ice, amber, or bone sealed away, can the strands survive. Yet even tiny fragments are valuable. With modern tools, researchers can stitch together these broken pieces like assembling a puzzle from scattered shards of glass. Each fragment adds another brushstroke to the portrait of ancient life. Imagine holding a fossilized tooth of a cave bear and realizing it still carries chemical letters from a creature that roamed 30,000 years ago. That tooth does not just tell us about size or diet, it carries the script of inheritance, showing connections between extinct species and the living ones today. In this way, fossils are not just relics, they are bridges across time. Sometimes DNA even reveals surprises. A fossil may look like one species, but its genetic code shows it belonged to another. These revelations rewrite family trees, shifting branches and adding new roots. Evolution's story is not as simple as straight lines. It is tangled, overlapping, always full of hidden twists revealed by ancient DNA. So fossils, once thought to be mute, now speak with new voices. They do not only tell of bones and stones, but of codes and kinships echoing across the silence of deep time. The discovery of Neanderthal DNA inside us. One of the most remarkable discoveries in genetics is that Neanderthals, once thought to be extinct without trace, still live inside us. When scientists sequenced their DNA, they found fragments within modern humans. Depending on ancestry, You may carry 1 to 4% of Neanderthal DNA. It means the past is not just behind us, it is within us, quietly shaping who we are today. These fragments influence more than ancestry. They affect immune systems, hair types, even how some people respond to sunlight. Traits you may think of as entirely modern may actually be echoes of a meeting long ago when humans and Neanderthals lived side by side, shared fires, and sometimes shared families. The code of that union never disappeared. It is humbling to imagine. People once separated by thousands of years are still present in our bodies. Every time you look in the mirror, part of what you see may come from Neanderthal ancestors. The bridge of your nose, the way your skin responds to cold, even how your body fights infections, some of it may be written in that ancient script. This discovery changed how we see Neanderthals. They were not failures erased by history, but contributors to our own story. Their DNA lives on intertwined with ours, proving that extinction is not always absolute. Sometimes the story continues in the spirals of another species, folded quietly into its future. So when you think of human history, don't see it as separate paths. See it as threads that wove together, leaving their mark in every heartbeat today. The Neanderthals may be gone, but their code still sings softly in us. The blending of ancient humans and modern ones, the story of Neanderthal DNA is just one chapter in a larger tale. Modern humans did not walk the earth alone. There were Denisovans in Asia, mysterious ancient groups in Africa, and countless others we still barely know. And all of them, at some point, blended with us. Their DNA still circulates in people today, showing that humanity's past was not a clean division, but a weaving of many lives. The Denisovans, for example, left traces in populations of Tibet and Oceania. Their genes help people survive at high altitudes where oxygen is thin. Imagine that. The ability of Sherpas to climb mountains may come from ancient DNA written by a people who vanished long ago. Their spiral code lives on, shaping survival in the present. This blending is called introgression, and it is part of why humans are so adaptable. We carry not just one lineage, but many. Ancient encounters once lost to history still echo in our bodies. They gave us new tools, new strengths, and sometimes new vulnerabilities. Our DNA is not pure, it is a mosaic built from countless ancestors across time. What this means is that humanity has always been interconnected. We are not isolated stories, but shared ones. Bloodlines cross, merge, and blend, leaving behind patterns no fossil alone could reveal. The spirals in your cells are maps of migration, meetings, and mingling across tens of thousands of years. So the blending of ancient and modern humans is not a footnote. It is the very essence of what it means to be human. We are living collages of past peoples, carrying voices that once spoke around fires in caves, still whispering inside us today. How migration patterns are written in our code. Every journey leaves a mark, and human migrations are no exception. As our ancestors walked out of Africa tens of thousands of years ago, their DNA carried signatures of the paths they took. Today, genetic studies can trace those routes, north into Europe, east into Asia, across land bridges into the Americas. Our DNA is a living atlas, recording footsteps long faded from the earth. Different populations carry distinct patterns of genetic markers. These markers are like stamps in a passport, showing where ancestors traveled and settled. For example, Native American DNA carries echoes of Siberian ancestors who crossed icy lands. Polynesian DNA shows traces of long ocean voyages. Each group's code tells a story not of one life, but of countless journeys over generations. These migration patterns are not only historical curiosities, they explain how humans adapted to new climates. Skin color, for example, shifted with latitude, influenced by the sun's intensity. Genetic changes for lactose tolerance emerged in pastoral communities. In this way, migration shaped not just where people lived, but how their bodies evolved to thrive there. Modern technology, like genome sequencing, has made it possible to map these movements in extraordinary detail. Scientists can take a DNA sample and show how your ancestors moved across continents, where they settled, and which ancient groups they mixed with. It turns your own code into a personal migration story, stretching back tens of thousands of years. The journey of DNA across continents. When early humans began to move out of Africa, they carried not only fire and tools, but also the spirals of DNA that would shape future generations. Each step across deserts, rivers, and mountains left tiny marks in their code, like footprints written into the body. As tribes split and traveled, DNA branched with them, creating the diversity of peoples we see today. It was not just a migration of bodies, it was a migration of spirals, spreading life's story across the earth. The journey was slow, measured in centuries rather than years. Families followed herds, chased seasons, and discovered new lands. Along the way, their DNA adapted, developing new traits for survival, like resistance to cold or tolerance for new foods. These changes were not dramatic leaps, but subtle edits in the code, written by environment and time. And as groups moved farther apart, their DNA began to tell unique stories of place. Scientists can trace these stories with genetic markers. In populations today, specific variations act like signposts, showing paths of migration. A pattern found in South America may trace back to Asia. A variation common in Europe links back to Africa. The spirals within us are maps, more reliable than memory, etched into every cell. They show where our ancestors walked, even when history books cannot. This means that when you look at the diversity of people around the world, you are not seeing separation. You are seeing chapters of the same story written in different places. DNA flowed like rivers, branching out, but always returning to the same source. The continents carry different languages, traditions, and faces, yet at the molecular level, we are one continuous journey. So the next time you think of DNA, imagine trails across sand, footsteps in snow, boats crossing seas. Each journey left marks, and those marks are still inside us. The story of continents is not only geography, it is also the quiet story of spirals carried across the earth, the quiet story of ancestry told molecule by molecule. Ancestry is more than family trees and surnames. It is written directly into your DNA. Every tiny variation, every subtle shift, carries echoes of people long gone. The curl of your hair, the shade of your skin, the way your body processes food, all are molecular souvenirs of ancestry. DNA does not forget. Even when names and histories are lost, the molecules still whisper their story. Each segment of DNA you carry came from someone before you. Half from your mother, half from your father, and before them, countless others. If you traced it back, you'd find connections stretching into prehistory, reaching people who lived in caves, built the first fires, or crossed oceans before maps existed. Your spirals are not just yours, they are archives of humanity itself. Modern genetic testing has made it possible to trace these connections more clearly. By analyzing variations, scientists can identify not only distant relatives but also regions where ancestors lived. A strand of DNA may reveal ties to Vikings, to indigenous tribes, to forgotten kingdoms. It is as if your body carries an invisible passport stamped with every journey your lineage has taken. But ancestry is not about pride or hierarchy. It is about continuity. It is the reminder that you are not alone, not rootless. You are a branch of a great tree, shaped by storms, sunlight, and time, but always connected to the roots below. The spirals within you prove that even when families are forgotten, the line of life has never been broken. So when you wonder where you come from, you don't need to search far. The answer is already inside you, written molecule by molecule, carried faithfully through generations, so you could exist here, now, in this moment. The surprising fact of shared roots among strangers. It may feel as though strangers are entirely separate from you, but DNA tells another story. Genetic studies show that if you go back far enough, thousands of years, you are related to nearly everyone on Earth. The differences we notice are recent, shaped by geography and culture. Beneath that, we all share roots connected through countless common ancestors whose code still flows through humanity today. This is why genetic diversity is both wide and narrow. Wide because every population carries unique traits shaped by history. Narrow because at the core we are deeply similar. Even people on opposite sides of the globe differ by less than 0.1% of their DNA. That tiny fraction gives us variety, but the overwhelming majority keeps us unified. Sometimes this shared ancestry becomes obvious in small ways. You may meet someone with a familiar gesture, a laugh that feels like home, or features that echo your own family. Without knowing it, you may be encountering a distant cousin carrying fragments of the same ancient spirals. The world feels large, but at the level of DNA it is intimate. This realization softens divisions. Borders, languages, and appearances may suggest separateness, but the spirals ignore them. They continue their work, copying and carrying, weaving all people into the same fabric. A stranger is not entirely other. They are simply a different variation of the same human story, carrying DNA that at some point once intertwined with yours. So the next time you pass someone on the street, remember, in the quiet archive of DNA, your stories overlap. You are both distant echoes of the same roots, still alive, still whispering through blood and bone. The role of mitochondria as a maternal signature. Within each of your cells are tiny structures called mitochondria, the energy makers, the powerhouses of life. But mitochondria carry more than fuel. They carry their own DNA passed only from mother to child. This means every person alive can trace an unbroken line back through their mothers, generation by generation, all the way to the dawn of humanity. It is called the maternal line, and it is one of DNA's most enduring signatures. This maternal DNA is special because it rarely mixes. Unlike the DNA in your chromosomes, which blends from both parents, mitochondrial DNA comes only from your mother. She received it from her mother, who received it from hers, in a chain stretching back tens of thousands of years. Each of us carries this silent gift, a thread linking us directly to ancient women whose names we may never know. Scientists studying mitochondrial DNA have traced humanity back to a single common ancestor, often called mitochondrial Eve. She was not the only woman alive at her time, but her line survived, passed through every generation until today. It is a reminder that one person's spirals can ripple across all humanity, shaping everyone alive today. Mitochondrial DNA also reveals migrations because its small changes accumulate slowly over time. Different groups carry distinct patterns, showing where their maternal ancestors traveled and settled. A strand of mitochondrial DNA can map your lineage across continents, revealing journeys older than history itself. So when you think of your mother or grandmother or the women in your family, remember that their strength is not only in memory, but in molecules. Their mitochondria still live in you, passing on energy, life, and the quiet proof of unbroken lineage through time. The endless passing of life's torch through generations. Life is not a single flame, but a torch passed endlessly, hand to hand, across centuries. DNA is the fire within that torch. It moves from parent to child, carrying instructions, memories, and potential. Each birth is not a beginning from nothing, but a continuation of an ancient line. The spirals in you are the same spirals that flickered in your ancestors, slightly edited but still carrying their essence. This passing is more than biology, it is story. Each generation adds its own notes, its own experiences, leaving marks in the code. Some changes are visible, like eye color or height. Others are silent, waiting to be revealed later. But the flame never dies. It burns quietly, even when families are forgotten, even when names vanish from memory. DNA ensures that life always continues the relay. When you hold a newborn, you are holding a carrier of countless lives. Inside that child are fragments of grandparents, great-grandparents, and ancestors stretching back to the very first humans. You're not seeing one life, but thousands reflected in one body. That continuity is both ordinary and miraculous. It happens every day, yet it carries the weight of eternity. This endless passing also means you, too, are part of the torch. Your DNA will ripple into future generations even if they never know your name. Your spirals will continue, folded into children, grandchildren, and beyond, stretching farther than your lifetime can imagine. You are both a link and a bridge, part of something far greater than yourself. So as you drift tonight, think of life's torch, moving gently, endlessly forward. The spiral never stops passing. It carries stories older than memory and will carry them still, long after we are gone. The poetry of proteins built from DNA's script. DNA on its own is a silent code. Its magic appears when the instructions are read and turned into proteins, the building blocks of life. Proteins are the workers, the architects, the messengers. They form your muscles, your skin, your hormones, even the enzymes that digest food. It is no exaggeration to say that proteins are life itself, and DNA is their poet, writing every line they follow. The process begins with transcription, where DNA is copied into RNA, a kind of messenger script. From there, ribosomes read the RNA like musicians following sheet music. Each set of 3 letters calls for one amino acid, the tiny pieces that form proteins. And as the ribosome moves along, amino acids link together, creating chains that will fold into precise shapes. It is astonishing how precise this translation is. One wrong letter, one skipped note, can disrupt the whole melody. Yet most of the time, it happens flawlessly in every cell, every second of your life. Millions of proteins are made and remade as you listen to this, each one following DNA's script with quiet perfection. What makes proteins even more poetic is their variety. From the same 4-letter code, thousands of unique proteins are built, each with a specific role. Some carry oxygen in your blood, some build hair, some repair damage after injury. They are like actors playing countless roles in life's endless play, all guided by the same script. So when you think of DNA, don't imagine it only as storage. Imagine it as poetry, written not for eyes, but for molecules. A poetry that sings itself into matter, creating flesh, memory, and thought without ever raising its voice. How ribosomes translate code into living matter. Ribosomes are tiny but powerful machines present in every cell. They are the readers of DNA's script, the translators that turn chemical letters into living matter. Without them, DNA would remain only potential. With them, the instructions become reality. Ribosomes are like ancient printers, producing proteins continuously, tirelessly, without pause. Each ribosome reads messenger RNA, moving along it like fingers across piano keys. At every step, it calls for the right amino acid, delivered by transfer RNA. Piece by piece, the protein chain grows, like beads strung together in perfect order, and when the chain is complete, it folds into a shape capable of carrying out work inside the cell. The beauty of ribosomes lies in their universality. Every living creature, bacteria, plants, animals, relies on them. The ribosomes in you are not so different from those in an oak tree or a hummingbird. They are one of life's most ancient tools, preserved through billions of years of evolution because they are too perfect to change. Ribosomes also show us that life is not chaotic, but ordered. They ensure that proteins are made quickly, accurately, and in just the right amounts. Imagine a factory where each worker knows their role, never resting, never missing a step. That is what ribosomes do, in silence, in darkness, inside every cell of your body right now. So as you picture yourself drifting deeper into rest, imagine countless ribosomes working quietly in the background, turning invisible instructions into the very substance of life. They are the scribes of existence, writing and rewriting you with every passing moment. The dance of amino acids forming shapes. Proteins begin as chains of amino acids, but they don't remain as flat strings. They twist, fold, and curl into intricate three-dimensional shapes. This folding is what gives them function. A protein's shape is as important as its composition. It is like origami, folding a single sheet of paper into a crane or a flower. The same materials, but the shape changes everything. The folding process happens spontaneously, as if guided by hidden choreography. Chemical attractions and repulsions pull parts of the chain together or push them apart until the final form emerges. Some proteins form simple spirals, others fold into complex knots, and each final shape is perfectly suited to its job. A hemoglobin protein, for example, folds into a shape that cradles oxygen molecules, carrying them through your blood. Enzymes fold into pockets that fit specific molecules, helping reactions happen faster. Without folding, proteins would be useless strings. With folding, they become tools of breathtaking precision. Sometimes folding goes wrong. Misfolded proteins can cause illnesses like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. This shows just how delicate and vital the folding dance is. Even the smallest misstep in the choreography can ripple into larger consequences. Yet most of the time, the folding happens seamlessly, quietly, billions of times every day inside your body. So picture amino acids as dancers, flowing gracefully into place, locking hands, spinning into forms. From this dance comes the machinery of life, endlessly choreographed by the code of DNA. The folding of proteins like origami. The idea of protein folding is so elegant that scientists often compare it to art. Imagine taking a long, delicate ribbon and folding it into a tiny structure no bigger than a speck of dust. That is what proteins do every second in every cell. They are molecular origami, shapes built from simple beginnings carrying profound meaning. Some proteins fold in milliseconds, snapping into place as though they were destined for that shape. Others require helpers, special molecules called chaperones that guide the folding process. Without this guidance, some proteins would twist incorrectly, like a paper crane with bent wings. The chaperones ensure that every fold is precise, creating structures that work as intended. The origami analogy becomes even clearer when you realize that a protein's shape is its function. Folded one way, it may be a transporter. Folded another way, it may be an enzyme. The same sequence of amino acids can hold different possibilities depending on how it folds, like a sheet of paper that can become many forms depending on the artist's hands. For years, scientists struggled to predict protein folding, but recently breakthroughs in artificial intelligence have begun to solve these mysteries, mapping folds with astonishing accuracy. This opens doors to designing new medicines, creating enzymes that can break down pollution, even engineering proteins that never existed in nature. DNA provides the instructions, but the folding brings imagination to life. And as you think of this origami inside you, remember, it happens in silence, in darkness, without your awareness. Thousands of folded shapes are forming right now, each one a tiny piece of the architecture of you. The mistakes that sometimes lead to disease, for all its precision, DNA is not perfect. Mistakes happen: letters copied incorrectly, proteins folded the wrong way, signals sent to the wrong place. Often, these mistakes are caught and corrected by the body's repair systems, but sometimes they slip through and the result can be illness. Diseases like cancer, cystic fibrosis, or Huntington's are linked directly to errors in DNA or in how it is read. These mistakes are called mutations, and while many are harmless or even beneficial, some disrupt essential processes. A single misplaced letter in the DNA code can stop a protein from working properly, like a missing gear in a clock. The body tries to compensate, but sometimes the consequences ripple outward, leading to sickness. It shows how delicate the balance of life's machinery truly is. Protein misfolding is another source of disease. Instead of forming the correct shape, the chain twists incorrectly, sticking together with others and forming harmful clumps. These clumps interfere with normal cell function, leading to degenerative conditions. What makes this particularly poignant is that the same folding process that gives us life can, in rare cases, betray us. Yet even in this fragility, there is resilience. The body has countless repair systems always at work, catching most errors before they cause harm. Enzymes patrol the DNA, correcting mispaired letters. Chaperone proteins help misfolded chains refold. The fact that life continues at all is proof of how effective these safeguards are, even if sometimes they falter. So while mistakes remind us of vulnerability, they also remind us of survival. Every day your DNA is tested, and every day it endures. The errors are few compared to the billions of successes, the countless proteins built correctly, keeping you alive in the quiet hours of the night.